Hello, thanks very much for having us here. My name is Leah and I work for Open and Agile Smart Cities. We are an international city network and I'm communications and project manager since actually the foundation of the organization as not-for-profit. That was almost 3 years ago. So thanks again for having us. It's a pleasure to see so many participating in this webinar. I mean, it's really cool to see almost 300 attendees, and I'm happy to present what we're doing and also how that links to some of the presentations that were given before. So who are we? Here's a short overview, and I see that the layout has been a bit messed up, but I hope you don't mind. So this is where we are and where we are present in the world. We do have an international reach. So while you can see Europe has been the heart of where we have been growing and where we have also started as a network, we soon became international with chapters in Australia and Brazil and Argentina and Mexico and also in Japan. So these are the darker blue areas. And we're currently also in talks with cities around the world to set up new chapters. So these are the light blue and the lighter blue areas. But who are we and what are we doing? As I mentioned, we are a global network of cities, and we have currently around 150 member cities. These are not just the big guys. So we have cities like London, like Tokyo, Milan has been mentioned, is also one of our member cities. Vienna has been mentioned, is one of our leading members and also engaged in the organizations. But we do also have smaller communities and smaller towns that are part of it. So there are 2 cities in Greece that are part of it. Trikala, I think the mayor has presented earlier today. And also, for example, smaller cities in France who are really innovative and doing a lot of good work, as also the previous speaker has shown that it doesn't actually matter what size you are as a city. So what are we doing? We are actually the only city network worldwide that is focusing on the specific topic of digital interoperability. So this means, so what is behind the technology? How do you integrate data? This all needs to be taken care of because otherwise there will not be a market. And basically this is our mission, to create a market for digital and data-driven solutions, which is based in the end on open standards and open interfaces, open APIs. And we call these references the OAC minimal interoperability mechanisms. I apologize for the long word, but I'll explain later what they are. And our vision is, by means of using open standards and also open source, is to create this market which allows digital solutions that are developed locally also to scale beyond just one single city. Many cities are reinventing the wheel because they don't know what's happening in other cities, because it's just too complicated to use one solution that has perfectly fine worked in Milan, for example, to another city, because the data models are different. There are different, things just in the back that are not working. To put it in easy terms, and I'll come back later in my presentation to this. So we're not doing this alone. We have those member cities who are doing a tremendous work as well, also on a local level, but we need to be embedded in a bigger system, and this is what you can see here. So this is just a short snapshot of linked initiatives and partners that we are working with or have strategically partnered up with. So among others, we work with the World Economic Forum. We've been involved also as part of the G20 Global Smart Cities Alliance, which has been set up last year in October. But we also work, of course, with European partners. Eurocities is a strong link. The EIPSCC is important. And of course, our partners at the European Commission, where we have worked towards also the Joint Boost Sustain Declaration, which I'll also mention later in more detail. In the sake of time, I'll move on because we only have 10 minutes, but if you have more questions about these partners, please also feel free to reach out afterwards. So what are we doing? We're trying to, as I mentioned before, we're trying to enable the city-driven, and that's really the important part, the city-driven ecosystem that allows solutions to, and apologies, I'm not used to this system. Here we are, now you can see it as well. So we're trying to enable cities as an ecosystem to exchange and scale digital solutions and services. And how do we do that? I mentioned before the minimal interoperability mechanisms. It's a tongue breaker, and I've been practicing long to be able to pronounce it. But the MIMs, as we call them in short, are currently 3 at the moment. The first one is context information management, based on a European standard at the moment. Then we have shared data models, which are important to exchange the data. But also marketplace enablers, so APIs, but also commons and so on. I have added a short explanation video, and I think the slides will be shared afterwards, so please do feel free to take a look afterwards. I won't go into technical details in this presentation also in the sake of time, but I also just want to have mentioned that we encourage our cities to work with us to further develop these MIMs, and also to propose new ones if they seem relevant, where standards can work to help facilitate the scale-up of technology. And in that connection, we have the city of Helsinki, who has proposed a MIM on personal data management, which is important if you want to give your citizens the service to roam freely in Europe, and to be able to get your health records, for example, in the hospital in Brussels, but also in Helsinki, but also in Dublin, Ireland. This is just one of the use cases that are potentially here. And the other one is fair artificial intelligence, which was proposed by the City of Amsterdam, which is also important in that regard. So we're trying to find out how technically we can enable these MIMs, and this is currently the work item for this year of the OAC Technology Council. So why am I talking about MIMs? Why are they important? So these MIMs, and it's important also to work with the community of cities and also with the different players, because these are universal tools to achieve this interoperability of data, interoperability of systems and services, which is needed to make scale happen, and to make sure that solutions are shared among cities and that they're replicated, in order to finally stop, every city reinventing the wheel, because it just costs a lot of money to do that. So these MIMs are vendor neutral and technology agnostic, and that's the most important actually on this side. And it's based on the consensus among the cities and communities. So every MIM that is proposed from a technical perspective is being voted on by our Council of Cities. If the Council says no, then the MIM will not be adopted. So this is where also the cities can drive the development of these MIMs. And just a short recap. So why are we doing this? What are the opportunities behind that? If MIMs are implemented in a technology platform of the city, then that means that you are not vendor locked in, because all these technical standards are based on open standards. You can use these MIMs in procurement, for example, in technology procurement, in order to de-risk the investment of your technology purchase. You also will have increased choice, and you will create a strong local ecosystem, because if you put MIMs into procurement documents, you have a whole different chance for your local innovation ecosystem to provide services for you. And for companies, of course, it means that once more cities have deployed these MIMs, and if they're using them as well in their service, then solutions can scale more easily. And then the principle develop once and deploy many times also applies. In general, it just decreases costs for everyone, and it increases the amount of investments. What I also would like to talk to you about, because we're talking about smart citizens and smart cities, is the need for capacity building for cities and communities. And this is why we're now working on the OAC Academy, because it is quite clear that everyone knows, and every city and every community knows, that the public sector is being disrupted by technology. This is actually an old figure from 2015 from Deloitte. We also know, while we know the problem, and while we know that the technological change is happening, We also know that the lack of capacity and skills, which you can see here second, well, always after the lack of finance, is the most crucial barrier towards adoption of digital urban platforms. So it's just the fact that that a city, for example, doesn't have the capacity or the skills within the workforce to work on this. And that's really a shame. And these figures come from the Join Boost Sustain movement from Living in the EU, so you have the link down there. 27 cities of different sizes have responded, and it's really quite crucial that we work on building skills further among the cities. This is why we worked on the OSC Academy, because we are such a technical network, and we know that not every city has this technical capacity. We want to offer courses to our member cities, but also beyond, online, to develop these capacities and to make the best out of digitalization. In the end, to avoid technology lock-in, because that's the most important. Otherwise, you're stuck with a system and you are stuck with technology debt. But also while making aware that these services have to be trusted and secure. So this plays back to the MIMS on personal data management, but also on fair AI. And just a short overview of what it will look like. This is currently in the development, as I mentioned before. We plan to launching this in September, so autumn this year. And we're currently working on the first course. It will be fully online. It will be fully self-serve. And it will be strongly based on peer learning, because there's so much knowledge in our network. And we really want to tap into this because there are examples, best practices that other cities can learn from. We want to enable this also through the OSC Academy. Then, of course, because it's online and self-serve, it's highly scalable. So you can take this with your peers in your city, and you do it together. But it doesn't matter how small or big you are, you can look at this and you can build knowledge on what does it mean to use open standards for your platforms. What is a digital platform? What is a digital twin? And so on and so forth. And in the end, you can also, of course, certify and apply for that. Just a short overview of the courses, because we are such a technically focused network. We also want, of course, to shape our offer around this. So our core are the open urban platforms, and around that, standards, APIs, procurement, implementations. But it also goes about the fact, so pilots and innovation, how can you experiment with technology, and then as a third layer, technology governance. So how do you ensure also, which is not on that slide, how do you ensure citizen engagement? How do you ensure that technology is actually just a means to an end, not the end itself? We don't want to deploy technology just for technology's sake. I think that has been clear. So fair AI, personal data management, and the governance around technology is just as important to talk about. Also, just a short announcement, that's another topic we're currently working on as a network, as a smart city network, is the Connected Smart Cities and Communities Catalog, where cities but also suppliers will be able to find and share operational and scalable digital services. We're currently developing this and we hope to launch it before the summer. And then I just wanted to say this as the last word. There are many initiatives out there that are tackling the topic of digital transformation of smart cities and communities. OSC, we of course, we work on the technical aspects, and you're more than welcome to join us. There's already a great chapter, as I mentioned, so it will be great to see that growing with new cities and new input. But there's also a European initiative called Join Boost Sustain. I mentioned it before. Currently 60 cities have signed, and the work has started now. In working groups on 5 different categories, among others, for example, legal, but also monitoring, measuring, so the aspect of KPIs, the tech work, which is led by OEC. We work in this declaration, in this movement, together with other organizations, such as Eurocities is in there as well, the European Network of Living Labs, the European Commission is part of this as well, of course. And also, well, just to mention, it has been launched by the Finnish presidency with the support of the Finnish presidency, which ended last year. But just to say, you still can sign, you still can join the working groups that are just about, we just had 2 meetings now. So sign the declaration, join the movement, join OSC, And then also you heard already the presentation from Jordana Eleftheriadou, I'm sorry for my lack of Greek, about the Intelligent Cities Challenge, which will also produce a lot of outcomes and a lot of support for cities as well. With that, I'm going to end my presentation, and if there are any questions, please also just send them in the chat if we don't have time to talk about them. And well, just one more note, this is how you can reach me. So for any questions about Driving with Sustain, about OEC, about the MIMS, just don't hesitate to reach out to me. And probably it's better for the 100 Intelligent Cities Challenge to reach out to Dana. Thank you very much.